Hi, I'm Kristy. Welcome to Weird and Witchy Shit, a place for, well, weird and witchy shit. Here we talk about everything from the magic of yoga, rituals, tarot, crystals, astrology, self-love, mental health, spiritual stuff, spooky things, and anything of the mystical variety. So if that sounds like the kind of shit you're into, then you're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to the Coven. Now, Medusa is a very misunderstood character in Greek mythology. She is very often seen as the villain, a monster, something scary, when in fact she is quite the opposite. She was actually a victim, and as often so happens, especially to women, she was blamed for what happened to her and turned into the quote-unquote monster that we know her as today. But I'm here to tell the story of Medusa and why she's not a monster or a villain by any stretch of the imagination. So Medusa was the daughter of Keto and Phorkys, who are two primordial sea gods, but Medusa herself was a normal mortal girl. She had two sisters, Stheno and Euryale, who were not normal mortal girls, but they were immortal Gorgons. So a Gorgon is a half woman, half serpent, normally depicted as having live snakes for hair and having very serpent-like features as well as human features. So it is said that Medusa had great beauty, and one of her best attributes was her gorgeous, golden, long, flowing hair. Not only was Medusa beautiful, but she was also well-loved, charming, kind, and loyal to a fault. So loyal, in fact, that she dedicated her entire life to the goddess Athena. Athena was the goddess of wisdom, warfare, and handicraft, and Medusa knew from a very young age that she was going to dedicate her entire life to Athena. It was Medusa's dream since childhood that she would serve the goddess Athena by working and living in her temple of worship. And because she was so dedicated, she did grow up and became one of Athena's priestesses. And one of the requirements to being a priestess for Athena was to remain pure, as in you had to be a virgin. So Medusa turned down many advances from men and gods alike so that she could follow Athena's wishes. It even says that she fell in love with the demigod Epicles, but she didn't pursue this love because her love for her goddess Athena was so much more than that and meant more to her than any man, basically. So Medusa was pretty much a model priestess and follower. She was completely devoted. She spent every day worshipping, gathering offerings, bringing people to the temple, and Athena was very happy with this because Medusa was going above and beyond any duties that she had. And she noticed that the longer Medusa was there, more and more people were coming to her temple to worship her. And, you know, the gods love an ego stroke, so she was very happy with this. However, it wasn't before too long that Athena noticed that, yes, her temple was having new visitors every day, but she came to the realisation that they weren't actually all coming there to worship her. And a lot of them were actually there so that they could see Medusa because she was so beautiful, she was so kind, she was so lovely, she was basically, why would you not want to be around her? So this did not make Athena happy. She grew incredibly jealous of Medusa, as the gods are so prone to doing. They love an ego stroke, and anything that damages their fragile egos, they're not very happy about it. After much consideration, Athena decided that instead of seeking revenge on Medusa for something that was completely out of her control. Like, she actually wasn't doing anything wrong. She could hardly help that she was gorgeous and charismatic. I mean, I would know. So Athena decided that she was just going to let it go. She was going to rise above and do nothing about it. Okay, she was still pissed off and she was still jealous, but she was like, okay, Medusa is my best follower. She's offered me nothing but love since she was just a girl, so I'm just going to get over it. But it wasn't just humans that Medusa had caught the attention of, but also the sea god Poseidon had also taken quite the liking to her. And Poseidon and Athena had like a long time rivalry going on, so they didn't really get on that well. They kind of hated each other. So Poseidon thought that maybe he could use Medusa to get back at Athena, kind of like a pawn in their games against each other. Obviously, like I said, Medusa was Athena's best, most loyal, purest, most unblemished follower. So Poseidon thought that it would bring great shame on Athena if her purest follower were to be seduced by him. So one day while walking along the shore, Medusa was approached by Poseidon and he hit her with some chat-up lines. I don't really know what gods use as chat-up lines. I'm trying to think of some ocean puns. Do you like seamen? I don't know. Anyway, he approached her and he probably said something a lot smoother than that. And although Medusa was incredibly flattered, she turned him down because, as we know, she's dedicated to Athena and she wouldn't let anything, not even the mighty Poseidon, get in her way of her loyalty. So Poseidon, I'm sure, not used to being turned down, decided that to him it didn't really matter if Medusa wanted him because he wanted her, so he was going to go ahead with his plan anyway. So it was then that he followed her back to Athena's temple, and right there on the temple floor he forced himself upon her. After this happened, understandably, Medusa was devastated, so she did the one thing that could give her comfort, and she prayed to Athena for guidance and wisdom. But Athena, instead of offering Medusa any comfort at all, she actually became enraged with Medusa, and she felt that her temple had been dishonoured, and not by Poseidon, but by Medusa. She said that if Medusa hadn't been so beautiful and so lovely, then it wouldn't lead men into temptation and into sin, and it would never have happened. So she fully blamed her. It was then Athena decided that she would punish Medusa for being assaulted by taking away her beauty and turning her into a Gorgon. Her once porcelain skin was now covered in scales, and her long golden hair was now made of live venomous snakes. And as if that wasn't enough, Athena made it so that no man could ever look at Medusa with desire again, as now whenever anyone made direct eye contact with the Gorgon, they would be instantly turned to stone. Inside though, Medusa was still that kind-hearted girl that didn't want to bring any harm to anyone. So she ran as fast and as far as she possibly could so that she could be away from everyone and not bring them any harm. However, news of Medusa travelled quickly, and it became sort of a challenge against warriors and heroes to slay the hideous Gorgon and come back with her head to prove themselves a true champion. Tell me you've got a small penis without telling me you've got a small penis. Many tried and many failed, each and every one of them being turned to stone in an instance, until Perseus came along. Perseus, much like these other heroes, was on a mission to behead Medusa and unfortunately he was successful in his mission. And you're probably wondering how he could behead her when he couldn't look at her, but it's a long story, but basically, long story short, he had a very shiny shield and he used the reflection of that to see her and chop her head off that way. Anyway, after death, Medusa from her headless body birthed 2 children. She birthed Chrysaor and Pegasus. And that wasn't actually the end of things for Medusa, because she continued to live on in a way because Perseus would use her for protection against his enemies by carrying her head in a bag and showing her to them so that they would turn to stone. So this is the story that I've always heard about Medusa, but I did hear a different one, and it's that Athena turning Medusa into a Gorgon wasn't a punishment, but it was a gift because Medusa never wanted to be touched by a man in the first place. So Athena made it so that no man ever could touch her, which I think, yes, is like a nicer thought, but it was also Athena who gifted Perseus the shield so that he could slay Medusa. So I don't know, man. Stories in mythology are very open to interpretation and have a million different variations, so man, you've just got to go with what you've got to go with. Medusa is by far one of my favourite characters in Greek mythology. I love how now she stands as a symbol for victims of sexual assault. She stands for female power and sometimes female rage as well. And she's also a known protector to ward off evil. So I think it's just really cool, and I think normally, like I said at the beginning, when you think of Medusa, you think of her being not the good guy, when really, in that story, she was the only good guy. So the yoga practice that I'm dedicating to Medusa is strong. It asks that we embrace rage, that internal fire, as well as embracing our femininity and using it as something transformational. So instead of just making our power spill out everywhere, we really learn to harness it and control it and make it work for us. After all, it belongs to us. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can get me on Instagram at Kristies_Coven. That's KRISTYS_Coven. You can also find me on YouTube at Kristy's Coven, where I post a lot of free yoga classes and shit like that. And I'd love to have you join, because it's not a coven if it's just me. And until next time, bye!